views and opinions expressed by the hosts do not necessarily state or reflect those of the company and its management. Furthermore, the views and opinions of the guests do not reflect those of the hosts, the show, the management, and the network.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to each one of you, wherever you are at the moment. Thank you so much for dropping by. Welcome to Motivationalee, together with Way to Oz Migration and Education Services. We are here to talk about what are the updates, migration updates here in Australia. And I'm sure a lot of you guys out there, wherever you are in the world, you would love to make a difference in your life, in your lives right now, and maybe thriving from a different country to be more successful in what you do or find your life's purpose. And maybe Australia is the right place to be, and there's a lot of opportunities here in Australia, guys. And who knows, this is the right destination for each one of you. So please sit back and relax, and we'll give you some updates about the migration here in Australia. There might be a lot of changes, or maybe a few changes. Let's see how it goes. But the right person to talk to or to listen to is an expert. And speaking of an expert, even if she closes her eyes, she knows what's happening in different visas. So please, before we move on to this and talk about anything about any visa that has some changes at this time, let's listen to Niti Hara, who is a registered migration agent. Of course, you can see her MARA number here in front of your screen here. So she is an expert when it comes to any visa. Hi, Niti.
Hi, Leah.
I've got here my technical whatever, clapping. Welcome. And I miss you. We've been very busy, and this is the right time because, there's plenty of hearsays perhaps, but an expert like you would be the right person to talk to listen to about some migration updates. Okay. Hi, Niti. I hope
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, welcome. We're working together. So Niti, take it away. I know I heard about maybe these are hearsays or not, some changes in some other
Lots of
visas.
changes.
Talk about me.
So what's happened is, Lee, in March, there is a report has come. So it's a review of the whole migration system, which is a huge report of 196 pages, and it's talking about almost every visa. So there are lots of recommendations that have been put forward. And next year, what that means is we are expecting, and that's what the immigration minister said, they're looking to overhaul the entire migration system, which could mean lesser visa subclasses, more efficient or faster processing, improving the processes, changes to lots of visa classes. So there is a lot. And of course, we can't cover all that report in this half an hour session.
That's
so,
right.
But there are some of those recommendations that were in the report that have already been announced as confirmed. So they are no longer as recommendations, but they are being changed from 1st of July. There are good news. In most of the cases, there are good news.
Yes.
And then there are some recommendations which have not been finalized. And if they go ahead, may not be good for some people. So, but it's across the entire, yes.
Yeah, that's good. So Niti, this is really exciting because it could be, as you said, it could be good news, and maybe, I don't know what will, how people would actually accept this. But anyways, let's talk about, because I heard something and I've read as well something about the New Zealand citizens, right?
Yes, they are
very big in social media.
Absolutely.
Please, for those who are New Zealand citizens out there,
they're the luckiest one. So from 1st of July, and that's announced, it's no longer a recommendation, it's implemented from 1st of July, that any New Zealand citizens who have been living in Australia on a special category visa, which is 444 visa, which allows them to stay in Australia, get Medicare, to work. However, in order to become an Australian citizen, they had to actually apply for permanent residency before and then become, they had to go through the same process as any other immigrant would. But from 1st of July, these people, as long as they're living in Australia for 4 years, they can
Mhm.
directly apply for Australian citizenship. No need
4
to go
years.
through the PR, as long as they're living in Australia for 4 years.
Wow.
And they can directly apply for Australian citizenship.
Citizen.
That is a big
Such a good
news.
news.
It
Like a
is,
shortcut
and
thing. No more permanent residency. You'll be a citizen
after
because
4 years.
after four years. Yeah.
After 4
Regardless
years.
of what they do here, like student
Regardless of what they do here.
or
Absolutely.
visa.
There were lots of, before this, there were, or until now, until 30th of June, there were lots of, visa options, and they had to satisfy those requirements to be eligible to get PR. But they don't have to
Wow.
go through any of that anymore. And
That's
I
really
think
good.
in Australia, there are approximately about 120,000 New Zealand special category visa holders in Australia, and
Yeah.
they all can be Australian citizen as long as they've been living in Australia for 4 years. So this is big news. And the best part is, just to put in perspective for people, because I had clients, like I know I've come across people who are New Zealand citizens in Australia for a long time, while they're working on their permanent residency, or they are not eligible for permanent residency, they want to call their families, right? But they can't, because they were not falling under our Australian citizenship, so they could not apply for family visas, for example. So they
Yeah.
couldn't reunion with their family members. But now it's all easy for them, because they will be an Australian citizen soon,
That
right?
means less expenses, isn't it, for permanent
Less
residency?
expenses and
Just go
more
straight to
and more
citizenship.
flexibility in terms of family reunion or applying for different visas, like family sponsored visas. So
That's
it is
right.
giving them more
Wow. That's
flexibility.
good.
Yeah. And
Wow.
another
For
thing
those.
is,
Mhm.
even if the parents, let's say any child is born to these New Zealand citizens after 1st of July, even though the parents are not Australian citizen, that child will be treated as Australian citizen.
I am really
Yes.
impressed
Yes,
about
this
this.
is really wow news. This is wow
It is.
news.
Yes. And for those
So,
of you out there who have friends who are New Zealand citizen and they're now here in Australia, or maybe they're coming to Australia, remember guys, 4 years after that, living here, regardless of whatever visa you've got, or student visa, but not visitor's visa, right?
no,
Just
no, no.
student
On
visa,
special
skills,
category visa, which
and
is a
special
triple four
category
visa.
visa.
There's
Not
New
visitors,
Zealand
but
citizens, they are on special category visa, which is triple
that's right.
four
Yeah.
visa.
Very good. So 4 years staying here, straight away you'll be citizen. You don't need to spend money
Yeah,
to apply for a permanent residency. As long as you've stayed here for
correct.
4 years as a New Zealand
Correct.
citizen, you'll be a citizen here in Australia. Wow, thank you so much
Correct.
for that. Now, Niti, there might be a bit of like question or clarification from other citizens. So why not American citizen? Why not UK citizen? Why not like this citizen? Why New
This is
Zealand? How special
it's
are they?
you could say it's like a treaty, or it's a mutual. Australia and New Zealand have taken their friendship to a different level, and they have mutually acknowledged each other's citizens, and that's what it is.
Yeah, there's an intimate
And
relationship.
they're maintaining their relationships.
That's
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Well, thank you for that. Is
Anyway,
there anything else that? Yeah.
These people were anyway living here, and I heard a speech from Claire O'Neill, who's our immigration minister. She said there were so many New Zealand citizens who been contributing to the economy for last 20 years in this country,
That's right.
and but they were not getting to the Australian citizenship because they were not able to meet certain requirements for permanent residency. And because of that, they were disadvantaged in some of the cases. For example, if there was issues like domestic violence in the family, the Australian government couldn't do anything, because these people were not Australian citizens. They were New Zealand citizens, but they've been living here for a long time. So there were certain group of people who were disadvantaged, and they have given so much to our country, to Australia. So this is in response to them, to protect such communities, that people who've been living here for long, contributing to the economy of Australia, contributing to the social and cultural, part of Australia, they must have advantages. So keeping in mind, that's why these changes have been done.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Neeti. And for those guys who are tuning in right now, or maybe viewing this recorded later on, if you have friends who are a New Zealand citizen, let them watch this. This is such a good news for each one of them. And
And we
Neeti,
can
when
help
it
them with
comes,
a citizenship application for them.
that's
We can
right.
help them with
And
a citizenship application for them.
that's right. And you can go to Way to Oz Migration and Education Services to assist you with all the paperwork that you need to comply and need to gather as well. But Neeti, speaking of citizenship, all of the people here who became a citizen need to take the test, right? Like a
Yes,
test for
it's a standard test.
they still have to do that, yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. They still need to study,
The
guys, but
process is still the
it's
same for the
tricky.
citizenship. Yeah.
That's good. So same process for citizenship. Thank you so much for that, Neeti. Once again, New Zealand citizen, well done. If you're here for 4 years, now you have now the chance from July onwards, right?
From 1st
This
of
is from
July.
July. First of July onwards, you'll be able to apply for citizenship. Again, for further infos, or maybe you can clarify this, you can contact Neeti Hara via Way to Oz Migration and Education Services. You can see in front of you right now, running on your screen. You can follow them on different social medias, let's say Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and also you can contact through WhatsApp. And there's a website called www.waytooz.com. So please don't forget that it's just in front of your screen. Now, Niti, I've got another question. So we know about this New Zealand citizen now. How about this work visa, like say, which is a 482 visa, which is the work visa, isn't it?
Yes.
There is a hearsay. Is it a hearsay that from 1st of July there would be a possibility of permanent residency? Can you explain further about this, please?
Absolutely.
Or
So
H1B
again,
visa.
this is a good news. And if you remember, we did a session, Lee, a couple of months ago, when people who were here during the COVID time, they were given concessions that even if their occupation was in a short-term list, they'd be able to transition to PR. But they were only selected, and they had to meet certain criteria to be able to transition. However, this time the good news is that the government of Australia has announced that by end of 2023, everyone on 482 visa, whether they're on STSOL, whether their occupation is on
The short term.
STSOL list, which is a short term, or MLTSL, they will be able to transition to permanent residency. So they will have a pathway to permanent residency by end of 2023.
Which is
So
December
it's no longer.
2023.
If you remember, Lee, we had lots of queries back then. People
That's right.
heard that news at the time. They were trying, and we had lots of consultations at the time where they were trying to identify whether they fit into that COVID concession or not. But now it's applicable to everyone.
Wow, that's really good.
Yes.
Such a good news.
Such a good
482
news.
visa at the end of this year, you can apply for permanent residency. But Niti, is it still the same that they need to be in with their employer for the past 2 years? What's the clause there?
No, so there are recommendations there. They do not have to be. They do not have to be.
So
Yes,
even if
that's
they're
another
just
challenge.
been there for less than a
But
year.
we haven't seen the legislative instrument as yet, but this was put in a recommendation there that they do not have to be with the same employer. The another key change, but that's come in the 482 space or 482 visa. So there's something called TSMIT. TSMIT is temporary skilled migration income threshold. So every overseas employee, before they are sponsored by an employer, they're promised that they will be given a minimum income of 53,900. However, that income is going to change from 1st of July. And that's so TSMIT, we call it as TSMIT. TSMIT is being increased to 70,000 per annum. So what that means is every overseas employee who's being sponsored on a 482 visa must be offered minimum of 70,000 per annum, or according to the Australian market salary rate. So that TSMIT is being increased to 70,000. That's a big change. People who are already on these visa types, they would perhaps understand more that the TSMIT is no longer 53,900. It's going to 70,000 per annum from 1st of July. That's a huge change. in this.
70,000 per annum. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. And Lee, while we're talking about 482, I just realized now there are some other recommendations that have been put forward. These are not finalized yet. Nothing has been announced. But as part of that review report, which I was talking to you before, that was released in March, under this 482 visa, one of the recommendation has been made that the LMT, which was a labor market testing where the employers had to post the job advertisement for certain days before they would sponsor an overseas employee. So the review suggested that that's not working. It's an ineffective method of identifying shortage. We have a department called Jobs and Skills Australia who already identifies which are the skills that are in shortage in Australia. So if they have done their job, there should be no longer LMT required. However, as I said, this is just one of the recommendation that has been put forward, that because LMT is not working, it should be either replaced with something else or it should no longer be there. But that's not been confirmed as yet. Now, this may be a good news if it is removed in future. It may be a good news for employers or the sponsors, because they had to undergo this process for at least 28 days. And it is, and they had to put their job advertisement on several websites. Right. And
3 platforms, right?
3 platforms, absolutely. And it's not working for anyone, either for the employer or the employee, because they want to hire someone as soon as possible. There's already a skill shortages in the country, right? And the other thing is that another recommendation, and that applies to perhaps, I guess, not just to this work visa, but even to skilled visas, where, and this we are here, again, it's a recommendation, not finalized, but what we're hearing is these lists. You know how we've got MLTSL list, STSL list, ROL list, regional occupation list, short-term list, medium-term list, medium and long-term list. They're going to all combine this together.
Oh, from 1st of July.
Again, a recommendation. How it's going to work, haven't announced. This is again a recommendation, because obviously the department has to consult so many other organizations before they finalize. It'll be a huge change if that happens. They might even, at the moment, we have got around, I think, I can't even put my hand in there, tell you, there are lots of occupations, and we have got a 6-digit ANSCO code to each of those occupations. We are also hearing that might roll up into 4, into a high, into a unit level, which is a 4, like a grouping, a major group. They might roll it into a major group, which may make it easier for people to either apply for skilled visa or 482 visa. So what I'm trying to say here is there are lots of changes coming into this space.
Something to look forward to. Didi, thank you for that. I've just got a quick message here from Messenger, because he doesn't know how to type it on the comments here on the live chat. He's just asking about the permanent residency for the 482 visa, right? You've said that you don't have to be in the same employer within the 2 years. Can you clarify that? Because sometimes maybe this person has just started, maybe for the first 6 months this year, for example, for a new employer, but last year it was a different employer for a year, and this will be the second employer. And at the end of this year, can he apply for residency? So if you could clarify that one.
Yes. So usually under the TRT stream, which is a transition stream, you must be with that employer for minimum of 3 years, which was then reduced to 2 years, right? But as per the recommendations, in fact, they are saying the employee can change the employers. They are not bound with one employer to go to the transition. So that's coming. As I said, I haven't seen the legislative instrument that was put in the recommendation that these employees on 482 visa should be allowed to move from one employer to another, and they will still be able to transition to permanent residency.
So these are recommendations, but we're waiting for the final paperwork about this.
For sure, there is a pathway for these 482 holders, but how it's going to work, obviously those details will be more in the legislative instruments.
We can't wait to see that instruments,
Yes,
all those documents to finally just say this is it officially. This is
correct.
the end of the year, and all those things. And at least this is a recommendation. There's something to look forward to, Niti. And please keep in
Yes.
touch with Way to Oz Migration and Education Services. Again, in front of your screen, you can see how you can keep in touch with them. And they have a website, www.waytooz.com. Now, Niti, I've got lots of friends who are actually working in, of course, both hospitals and nursing home, right? And these are, some of them are in the aged care category or category. Okay. They'll actually hearing some maybe good news at the moment about the pathway. Can you expound on this
Yes.
about the aged care workers?
Yeah, so
Who's
this is
going
this
to
is this
listen
is
to this
quite
one? Go ahead.
recently. This was just 2 weeks ago, and the department has announced that people who are working in aged care, they have a pathway to PR. Now,
Okay.
what does that mean is that they have recently signed a new aged care industry labor agreement. So a new industry labor agreement has been announced, under which the employers or the aged care providers, they can sponsor applicants on 482 visa. Now, and those people could be support workers, personal care assistants, or aged or disabled carer. But the good part is they don't have to have, how in normally in 482 visa, you must have a 2 years works experience.
That's
You
right.
should be qualifying for English. You should have, so of course, there are certain requirements. But for these people, because it is under a labor agreement, it's going to be a very streamlined visa nomination process and will be a priority visa processing. There's no post-qualification work requirement, which is a concession in itself. For English also, they can score up to 5 or equivalent. And if they are working if they're working in a cultural or linguistic care, then they can even get away with 4.5. The other advantage is, how I just told you before that for 482 visa, the TISMIT has gone up to 70,000.
70K,
But
yeah.
for these aged care workers, they have still kept it at 51,222 Australian dollars. So there are
That's
lots
really
of concessions. Yeah. And they have got a pathway, as I announced before, because they'll be on 482 visa, they can then lead to PR after 2 years. So there's an extended pathway.
That's great.
The only thing is that these aged care providers need to do a memorandum of understanding or sign an MOU with the relevant unions to avail that labor agreement.
Can you expound on that one? Sorry, if just a quick one.
Sure. So
Thank
there's
you.
as I said, there's an industry-wide labor agreement, right? Which has announced that these aged care workers can sponsor applicants for certain occupations, which I've already told, and they've got concessions. Now, the aged care providers, in order to avail that agreement, they have to get into an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with the relevant unions before they can sponsor someone. So that's what they need to do. Is they need to get into that MOU with the relevant industry unions. So because how I said there were 3 occupations, so there are 3 different unions, and the aged care providers need to sign MOU with those unions before they can avail this. Because think this way, labor agreement is sitting here, right? And these aged care providers, before they can access that labor agreement, they need to get into MOU with the relevant industry union to avail the industry-wide agreement.
Thank you for that, Niti. And it's good to know that the English test or the English requirement doesn't have to be 7, just like any nursing.
Correct. And there's no post-qualification requirement, work experience requirement too for 482.
No, did you say no work experience?
Requirement. As long as they've got AQF Certificate 3 or 12 months of relevant work experience, either or, they can apply for this 482.
That's so good. Oh my goodness.
And we've got
For
many
all
in the
those
country. we've got many in the country who are already working, the overseas workers who are already working with these aged care. And because there is such a
Yeah.
shortage in this aged care, even
Yeah.
the aged care providers are happy to sponsor them
I
because they've been
know.
working with
Better.
them for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good news. Thank you so much for that. And for those people out there and who has friends or family working in the aged care community or department, this is such a good news for each one of you guys. There is a reason to do this, course or to do this job as well, because there is a good pathway. Unity, just to clarify, from 1st week of July, this
Yep.
is not only a recommendation, but it's like
This is in
it's in
place.
the documents
Yes.
is in place already, right? For this one,
Yeah. Yeah.
from 1st of July onwards. So for those
Correct.
who are working in the aged care, please let them know about this good news, or you can watch again this podcast, or you can contact Way to Oz Migration and Education Services just in front of your screen, guys, how you can keep in touch with Niti Hara as well. Or you can contact me as well, so I can redirect you to Way to Oz Migration and Education Services. Now, Niti, I'm sure there are more good news, perhaps, or other changes that you have heard, and some people have heard at this time. Do you have any other
Yeah.
changes in some visas, like maybe student visa
Yeah,
or
I think that's a big change coming. So from 1st of July, and international students must listen to this very carefully. We had a working relaxation during the COVID where the international students could work full time. From 1st of July, work cap is back, which means they can only work 48 hours per fortnight, or in other words, 24 hours per week.
24 hours per
Guys,
week?
that's increased from 20 hours to 24 hours, but the cap is in action after 1st of July. So, but interestingly, there's a concession for aged care workers still. So international students who are working in aged care, they can still
Uh-huh.
work full time until end of this calendar year.
Until end of this year, and then after obviously 2024, it will go back to the
To
24
the
hours a week for the
Correct.
aged care. Once again,
Correct. Correct. So they've been
Niti
given a
just
bit of a
mentioned.
relaxation here.
That's right. So from 1st of July, guys, 24 hours per week, except those people who are working the aged care up to the end
Yeah.
of this year. You can still work full time per week. Is 37.5, I believe. So is the full time
Checking
anyways.
more.
That's
Yeah.
up to, or whatever
no
is in the facilities policy, up to the end of this year. But 2024, guys, for those on the aged care, you have to do 24 hours a week. Thank you so
Correct.
much for that, Niti. I
Correct.
hope
So
that's
that's
loud and clear.
Yes.
Anything else about student visas?
That's about student visas so far. There are
That's
other
good.
changes coming, but let's keep it for another session.
Okay, that's true. So watch out for that one. How about partner or maybe parent visa? Is there
Parent
anything?
visa, I just wanted to highlight there are a few recommendations that have been made, and it was very eye-opener actually. So what's happening in now, these are recommendations as per the review of the migration system report. What they're saying is that for the parent visa, the demand is really higher than the places available. And that is why for parent visa, even for a contributory parent visa, it is taking 7 to 12 years to grant and a contributory parent visa, which is a long time. And for non-contributory, it can be anywhere from 20 to 30 years, right? And so according to the report, each parent in their lifetime cost around 400,000 to Australian government, which is a huge amount.
Wow.
So
It
what
is.
they've come up with 3 recommendations. What they've come up is that they should scrap the permanent visas for parents, which is not good to hear, and maybe replace with TR so as to reduce the number of applications. That's recommendation 1.
Okay.
Recommendation 2 is they may introduce some like a lottery system where they say, all right, we are going to hypothetically grant 5,000. There are 5,000 places when we're gonna process 5,000 applications this year. You all can apply, and we'll select 5,000 applications, and then next year you again go in the draw if you want to. And the recommendation 3 is that there was a recently introduced a temporary parent-sponsored visa, which was subclass 870 in 2019. It was just recently introduced in
That's right.
2019.
The
That's
3 years and the 5 years, right?
correct. That's the one. And that it's not
Right.
effective anymore, and it must be
Oh.
short and cheaper because it's very expensive visa. So there are a few recommendations, as I said, in that have been put under this parent visa. However, nothing has been finalized, or these are just purely recommendations. So my
Yes.
recommendation is people who are looking to apply for parent visa, they must do that as soon as possible, because we don't know which direction.
The changes.
Yeah,
But at least these are recommendations yet. It's not yet
this
been
is
finalized.
recommendation only.
We have
Yes.
that,
But if your
heads
parents
up.
are eligible, then I am recommending, or Waitrose is recommending, to put your applications in.
There you go. For those who have parents right there who are waiting for, be sponsored by your children, or for those children out there who's watching right now, if you're thinking of, sponsoring your parents as well for contributory and non-contributory parent visa, please get in touch with Niti Hara via Way to Oz, www.waytooz.com. Again, in front of your screen, that's where you can actually contact Niti, or you can contact me. I can redirect it to Niti. Thank you so much for that, Niti. Anything else? Any other changes? Any other
We've covered
gossips?
many of them today. And now I've covered the key ones, I would say, not
Okay.
many. We have covered the key ones, which is
That's
very
good.
important to know. There's lots of changes coming. As I said, the immigration minister has already announced that they are going to overhaul the migration system. There could be removal of some subclasses, or collection of subclasses. So there's lots and lots of changes expected next financial year. Now I think it's a time to how they come, when they come, and how are they being implemented. It's just a matter of now drilling to that level. So
That's right.
let's wait and watch.
Yeah, and let's save the rest for our next episode about migration updates in Australia. Thank you so much for that, Niti. Any special message or final message to our viewers at this time from different parts
I
of
would
the
say
world?
just keep an eye on as I said, for students, keep an eye on these changes, because it's a big change. Working right changes for 482 visa holders. It's a big change if they are in the process of putting applications. The TISMIT is going up to 70,000 instead of 53,900. What else? Aged care, again, that is in place. If you are not clear of any of these changes, please seek professional advice, because as I said, lots of changes are coming in this space. So I highly recommend that you seek some professional advice if you are falling into any of these changes.
Totally agree with you, Niti. Yeah, it is very important. It's especially when it comes to visas, migration. It's okay to ask other people, but it's better to ask the expert straight
Absolutely.
away.
Unfortunately, people rely on Facebook comments, and which is not the right way. I must say, it is not just immigration. It's a law. It's an immigration law. Applying a visa is not just filling up an application. There are other aspects. There are regulations. There are the law, or you're involving a law here. So I highly recommend, don't go by the Facebook suggestions.
I know. Facebook group, something like that.
Correct.
They're all righteous, right? Like, this is what happened to me. This is what
I'm
happened.
not saying you cannot do it. I'm not saying you cannot do it, but you should not just rely on social media suggestions or advice.
Yeah. Well, the consultation must be proper anyways, coming from an expert who knows the ins and outs of the migration, because each one of us applicants has different circumstances as well. So it's better to ask an expert like Niti Hara, who is actually a registered migration agent. You can see her MARA number in front of your screen right now. And she's been in this business for a long time. And of course, very reliable. You can see as well the Google review about Way to Oz, migration and education services. Make sure you see the right logo, because there might be some migration has almost the same name as Way to Oz. There's an Oz, whatever it is. But make sure you look at the right logo. And again, go to our their website, www.waytooz.com. waytooz.com, and follow as well Way to Oz on different social media in front of your screen: LinkedIn, Instagram, WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook page. Again, Way to Oz, www.waytooz.com. Thank you so much for that, Niti. And also, guys, for those who have just tuned in or are going to be watching this podcast, please just be reminded that if you want to continue to pursue your dream, and maybe coming to Australia is the best thing and the best decision you can ever make in your life, make sure you contact Way to Us Migration and Education Services. And again, you there's a lot of opportunities here that you can do, and at the same time, it's a multicultural, diversified country, and it's just beautiful. I'm not exaggerating. Very welcoming as well, and it's easy to mingle. It's easy to juggle everything here, and just very friendly environment, whichever state here in Australia. So please come and experience the life here after migration, only here in Australia, together with Way to Us and of course Motivationalee. Speaking of motivation, I would like to quickly invite each one of you to please follow me on my Facebook page, Motivationalee, and of course my YouTube channel, which I'm live right now. At the same time, my Instagram as well. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much in advance for supporting my advocacy to inspire, motivate, and create an impact. And if you want to find your life's purpose, maybe Australia is the best destination. And before you all go, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to send this message to each one of you. Today is the opportunity to build the tomorrow that you have wished for. So make sure, elevate your potential and utilize your passion. And if you want to elevate that potential, please contact me, your life coach, your success coach here, and wellness coach, Lee Montages, on Motivationalee. Once again, www.motivationalee.com. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you again next time. Niti, thank you so much, Niti. Can you still hear me? We can see you, Niti. Hello. Hey, thank you so much for
Sorry,
watching,
I thought you
everyone.
put me backstage.
Take care, everyone. See you, Niti.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.